Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Queue, and in this video we'll be taking an in-depth look at the German tech tree Tier 10 fighter, the Messerschmitt Me P.1101. Hello there, and here's my Me P.1101 on the snow outside what I guess is the officers' mess, and of course this is the so-called hangar for the 2021 Christmas event, in case you're watching this at some other time. Now, this aircraft never made it into production, but there was a prototype that was discovered by the Americans, nearly 80% complete, and an interesting feature, the swept-back wings, which could be adjusted from 30 degrees to 45 degrees. I think that was for testing purposes, but that idea was eventually incorporated into American designs, such as the Bell X-5. Now, I don't fly this aircraft very much for reasons that I will explain later in the video. However, I thought the battle that's upcoming was worth showing you and doing an in-depth review of what is one of the most popular Tier 10s. Okay, so what we'll do next is we'll look at the numbers, but if you don't want to look at a spreadsheet, as usual, use the links below the video to skip ahead to another section. And here are the statistics for all of the Tier 10 fighters. As you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. I'm going to explain how the spreadsheet works quickly. If you already know that, again, use the link below the video to skip ahead. Okay, so what we have across the top are the 8 planes. They all occupy 2 columns each. The plane of interest, the MEP.1101, occupies columns C and D. Down the left, you can see the statistics, the attributes that are visible in the hangar UI. I've added a little bit of extra information from a third-party site for auto-aim angle, dispersion angle, and overheat time. And all of the statistics are in this table that I'm circling now. Configuration was stock, all equipment was demounted, pilot sent back to the barracks, and the modules are all top. Where you see green, it's best in class, light blue, second best in class, light purple, third best in class. There are no premium aircraft at Tier 10, so you won't see any gold colour. And of course, I just reversed the logic. We're using red colours for worst in class. Okay, so that's how the spreadsheet works. Let's talk about the actual statistics. So the first characteristic to look at is gun armament, and in the case of the MEP.1101, unequivocally we're looking at the best characteristic of this aircraft and the one that makes people love it so much. Rating overall is 45, best in class. The cumulative DPS at 800 is best in class as well. And I wouldn't regard this as an out-and-out high-energy fighter, yet it has better weaponry than the true high-energy fighters in this comparison. The Focke-Wulf 252, for instance, the Swift, and the MiG-15 BIS. And this outstanding performance is delivered by 4 20mm cannons with an incredible rate of fire of 700 rounds per minute, which is much higher than anything else in this comparison, and a range of 2,625 feet, which is as good as anything in this comparison. The Aidens on the Swift, the NL-23s on the LA-15 and Yak-30 have similar range. Auto aim angle is a helpful 3 degrees. That's quite wide, although no better than anything else in the class. Dispersion angle 0.5. That's pretty tight for cannons of this type. And it's the same for most of the Tier 10 fighters. The NR-23s on the LA-15 and probably the Yak-30 have a slightly tighter dispersion angle. Watch the overheat time though, it's only 3 seconds, so you do need to pulse these cannons a little bit. But if you do that, you will absolutely melt anything that's in front of you. This is magnificent weaponry. Well, if we look at the survivability figures, we've got the actual opposite end of the spectrum. This is probably the aircraft's worst feature. It's pretty fragile. It's rated at 11, and I think we'll just drop straight down to the worst in class figures here. Survivability is here, and as you can see, it's on a par with the term fighters, the Yak-30 and the KA-1623s, which are generally the most fragile fighters. The MEP.1101 is no more robust, really, than those term fighters. Don't really want to get hit in this. It's quite fragile. Airspeed is it's sort of alright, but it's not particularly quick, which people tend to assume that it is. It's not as quick as an F-86A Sabre, for instance. It's not as quick as the high-energy fighters by some distance, best in class, of course, being the Swift, which is incredibly fast for a fighter. But it's no faster than the LA-15 or the KI-162 term fighters either, and it's not that much faster than the Yak-30. And I want to draw your attention to the maximum boost speed here. It's only 590. Considerably worse than the Sabre and the high-energy fighters. Well, perhaps that's not a surprise, but it's no better than the LA-15. That will keep up with you if it gets on your tail. Bear that in mind. And you also can't dive away from the LA-15. It has the same dive speed, and you can't outclimb it either. So bear in mind, you want to be careful about engaging an LA-15. You need to do that from above. You also need to be a little bit careful about the Yak-30 and the KO-162, and again, I would recommend that you engage them from above and hit with the weaponry, and then boost away whilst they're trying to turn to catch you. Okay, we'll talk about the turn high-energy fighters in a moment, and then we'll also have a consideration of the Sabre, which is a threat of unparalleled proportions. Maneuverability, same really as the high-energy fighters. It's much less manoeuvrable than the Sabre. More on that later, as I've just mentioned. And you would expect it to be much less manoeuvrable than the turn fighters, the LA-15, the Yak-30 and the KO-162. Coming to altitude performance, it's on a par with a couple of the high-energy fighters, the 252 and the Swift, which is good. Nowhere near as good as the Sabre. There's that plane again. And the MiG-15 BIS. You can, however, comfortably get above the turn fighters, the LA-15, the Yak-30s and the KO-162, and that should start giving you a clue about how best to play this aircraft. More on that in a moment. So we just drop down and we'll have a quick look at the worst-in-class figures. Unsurprisingly, a fair bit of red for the manoeuvrability, as you can see, and a fair bit of red for the altitude performance as well. And do watch out for this climb rate. Even though it's not actually third worst in class, it's barely so. It's fractionally above the third worst in class LA-15. So, you want to be aggressive in this aircraft. You want to get things in front of you and melt them with your weaponry, which means that you need to think ahead a little bit, unusually for perhaps a fighter where you might think of doing quite a bit of turn fighting. But if you can get into the position where you have the advantage, then boy, what an advantage you do have. So what constitutes an advantage? Well, if you're above the turn fighters for a start, so try and keep it high. Try and keep it as fast as possible. Try and make sure you've got plenty of boost in hand before mounting an attack. With these three fighters, you can dive at them, hit them very, very hard, very nearly boom and zoom them in many cases. Probably can boom and zoom them in many cases, in fact, and then boost away. With the high energy fighters, again, you need to plan to get on their tail and then try and hit them very hard with the reasonably long range weaponry before they boost away. The Swift may get away from you, but you probably won't see too much of the Swift in normal conditions unless somebody is foolish enough to bring it down to your altitude and start dogfighting in it. What do you do with the Sabre? You need to very much know where it is and be the aggressor, or simply fly away before it turns its attentions to you. This aircraft is fast. This aircraft will catch you up easily. This aircraft will outturn you quite easily if you're similarly built. So if you're specialist for specialist, or you're stock in its stock, and particularly if you're stock in its specialist, you haven't got a chance in a turn fight against this. It will get above you very easily as well. The moral of the story is that provided you can attack the Sabre and damage it very badly, critically hit it, get its wings and tails, you're in a good position. But if you don't do that, you may very well come a cropper against the Sabre. At all times, bear this aircraft in mind if it features in a battle on the opposing team. Okay, that's enough on the numbers. Let's go and see how I've set this aircraft up. So here we are back on the snow looking at my Me P.1101. And I'm going to explain how I've set it up. It's specialised, so I have all of the equipment and consumable slots available. And as a philosophy, I decided that I wanted another characteristic apart from its magnificent weaponry to be as good as possible, and that was going to be manoeuvrability. And be warned, this is a pretty filthy build I've got on this aircraft. So going into the details, we've got a gun sight to improve the accuracy, no surprises there. Now, some of you may be wondering, why is this outlined and why does it have a national flag at the top of it? And this may be the first time that you've seen what's called special project equipment. And this was introduced into the game for a fairly short period by the World of Warplanes team, and I don't think they're planning on issuing any more special project equipment in the future. Well, I hope so, because special project equipment is a lot better than your standard equipment. And some of you may recognize this little tag here as indicating experimental equipment. Special project equipment is a lot better, well, considerably better than experimental equipment as well. So it's a good job that this didn't become festooned through the game, but be aware that there are pieces of special project equipment that players have obtained in the past. Elite players in particular will have set up favourite aircraft, a little bit like me, to radically improve their characteristics. And here's another piece of special project equipment, the lightweight wing frame, and another piece of special project equipment, the lightweight power unit. I'm far from alone in adopting this sort of build. And then I've got a piece of experimental equipment to improve the speed. And finally, I've got the reinforced bulk carriers to improve the burst length. You will recall, or if you didn't watch the spreadsheet section, you will need to know that you've got a 3-second burst length. I've increased that here, and I've also got the bonus characteristics, as you can see down there, to improve the cooldown rate, as well as a little bit of accuracy as well. So what we've ended up doing is increasing the maneuverability from a base of 61 up to 78. This probably means I can compete with, for instance, a stock F-86 Sabre, not a specialist one, but it's quite likely some specialist Sabres are going to have special project equipment. So bear that in mind. But now what we've got is magnificent armament allied to pretty good maneuverability. Consumables, my standard set for the fighter. It's a single-seat aircraft, so we have a fire extinguisher, pneumatic control assist for extra maneuverability when I'm in a difficult turn fight. The engine cooling, absolute must on this. I've got the engine restart. I don't think there's much point in mounting the mixture to slightly increase the speed. And then universal ammunition. I don't fire gold as you know. Coming to pilot skills. Well, this is a fairly highly trained pilot. I would go for aerodynamics expert first if you've built it with equipment that either improves maneuverability or speed, or both, as I have in this case. There's an argument if you've gone for my philosophy, which is maneuverability, for putting on the aerobatics expert next. If you decided to go for a speed build, which is a possibility, you might drop this and put on either Marksman 1 or probably Engine Guru 1 first in that case. These are certainly the next sets of skills that I'll be concentrating upon. But I've also added resilience. I've already mentioned that this aircraft is fairly fragile. I find that this resilience skill really helps. It's hard to get because it's a 3-pointer, but as you can see, it repairs all critical damage, heals all crew injuries, reduces engine and weapon overheating by 50%, increases maneuverability and engine thrust. Yes, that's a lot it does when the aircraft loses 70% of hit points. And I found this skill really helps me because whether you like it or not, you're going to lose 70% of your hit points in an ME P.1101 quite frequently. Next skills, Engine Guru 2 and Marksman 2, probably in the reverse order, probably the Marksman and then the Engine, but we're a long way away from getting those skills. See, there's the best part of 5 million to the next skill point, although I do have one I can release here. Okay, so what we're going to do next is have a look at this in battle, and let's go ahead and do that. Before we talk about strategy, not so much tactics as you'll see in a moment, let me explain why I don't fly this aircraft very much. It's partly because I've been concentrating on other classes of aircraft, trying to improve what are in some cases quite mediocre skills in other planes, but mostly it's that build. It's pushed the aircraft into overpowered territory, and therefore, just like the EF-131 and the XP-54, I fly this very rarely. In fact, the EF-131 I've never flown, because I'm aware it's an overpowered aircraft, and I kind of think that's unfair to upset the balance of games flying overpowered aircraft. I do trot it out occasionally for fun, and this is an instance in case. Now, I've had to take a screenshot of the map because the replay wasn't showing it properly, although I've just noticed that we've got some Russian up here. Well, enjoy. This is one of the World of Warplanes team's unloved asymmetric maps, with a strategically important command centre and airbase near one spawn, and 2 garrisons near the other. Now, it so happens the logic's reversed here. I'm actually at this spawn, the red one for once, so I'm on the favourable side of the map. And basically, the objective of my team is to take these 2 sectors, and if we can hold them the entire game, then the bomber flights from the command center will probably flip at least one of the garrisons and we will win the game. Conversely, the enemy team have got to take those 2 garrisons and also strive might and main to take at least one of the other 2 sectors. Well, I'd normally do an order of battle here, but I'm not going to, because what you're about to see is actually a battle lifted from my Twitch VOD with my real-time, live and raw reactions to the battle, and I didn't really do an order of battle summary there, so I thought we'd repeat the experience here. And because it's an extract from a Twitch VOD, you're going to hear me interacting with members of my audience and making other comments, which normally I wouldn't when I do a commentary overlay on a battle after the event. Just before we go into battle, for the stream, I had set up a new microphone and foolishly I'd placed it over the top of my mouse mat. So you're going to hear quite a lot of mouse activity, thumps and clicks, and indeed me catching the boom arm of the microphone on occasion, which is the spring sound. I apologise for that, and I've since moved the microphone. Are you not allowed to talk about... Okay. You've got me slightly worried now, but lovely to have you along. Buck is just trying to finalise an interstate move in the US, so he's not streaming a lot at the moment. But by all means, go and check him out, give him a follow, and when he does stream, go and say hi. EF131. Okay, EF131. First one I've seen today. I don't suppose I can really complain that much. It's the other Hornet. There. Level with aerial combat. Often takes you all the way. No, never mind. Takes you all the way out of the sector when you try and fight something. Picked off the wrong targets so far, but let's see if we can retrieve the situation. That was actually originally one of the targets I wanted to go for. Hornet. Bloody glad I killed that. I'll tell you what, if we get hold of this airfield, I'm swapping into one of those. Making heavy weather of getting this, I have to say. Well, my team has failed to capture a sector, or hold a sector, and I've been fighting like crazy here. And you know the F-86 is going to come back and specifically hunt me now. I've got the aircraft to do it even more. There's the F-86, let's try and surprise him. got his tail, so I can probably turn with him. He's on fire, so he'll probably burn out. Good. Crazy fight. Oh, we just can't get this airfield, can we? As fast as I'm killing aircraft, and I've now killed 16. My teammates are dying in here. What put me on fire? Finally. Let's see if we can get some repairs as well. Ah, it's the F-86. I don't think I'm going to get my repairs. Need help here. Can't outrun him and I can't outturn him probably. Don't know. Making a fair fist of it at the moment, but I've got my own. Oh, he's straightened up for me. I'm a lucky boy. Was that actually the ground attacker that was shooting me? That's an ace in a single sortie. You don't see that too often. I need repairs. Bad move by him for sure, although I've got a feeling I'm pretty competitive with him, Xander. Jeepers, that was a hard battle. I can't relax yet either. Need another sector. That's a human player. Sure. Oh, it wasn't. Winged Legend in a single sortie as well. Right. Oh, we've got superiority. Good grief. How things in this game sometimes change, eh? His engine, wasn't it? It's the bomber. Should take our command centre back. So I'm fairly low health. I don't want to be addressing him yet. Thank you so much for that. Digital 75 Zombie, thank you for joining the community. Sorry, a bit choked as I say that because this has been a really hard battle. This is still a really hard battle. It's not over yet. Not whilst they have the EF-131.
Attention all fighters. Enemy bombers detected. Destroy them.
Got to wait until this unlocks. Oh, thanks for shooting my tail, you... And my engine! Horrible, horrible Grand attacking. Don't shoot him down yet! That was close. What a shame. Nearly carried my flag right to the end in a single sortie. Just lost concentration at the end, but I think we've managed to win this battle. We can just get one more count. We should do it. Yeah, we've got 2 more counts. That's fine. What a hard battle that was. So let's take a look at the outcome of this hard-fought battle, and as we can see from the centre, it's a 5 chevron battle or a grade 1 fighter. Gross 164,429 credits, or silver if you prefer. 51,000 of that approximately coming from the premium account bonus. We look at the expenses, we can see that the aircraft was lost once, right at the end when I lost concentration, 11,400 credits for the repair costs. I used prepaid consumables in this battle, so there's no expenses there. Experience of 12,554 with the various bonuses that you can see there. 689 for experience, again with bonuses as is visible. If we look at the epic medals, we can see a Marseille, an Ace, an Akamatsu, a Winged Legend, and a Hero of the Sky. The Ace netted me a token. I'd got the tokens for the other epic medals earlier in the day. Personal score tab, we can see that 2 of the class-specific missions were complete. 3/5 of the last one was done. That netted the 5 chevrons. 20,830 person points. Pretty good. I've done better in this aircraft. It's a favourite of mine. 1 sector captured. Oh boy, what a sector that was to capture. That airfield did not want to fall to our team. 25 aerial targets destroyed. 14,065 damage to aerial targets with 35 critical hits. Destroyed once right at the end, and 840 capture points. I'm going to guess most of those were for attacking. Let's have a look. 200 for defending, 640 for attacking. Turn to the team score tab. Unsurprisingly, that's enough for first place, both by personal points and by chevrons. Important and much needed contributions from the IL-40 in a tier 9 Grand Attacker up against an EF-131. Well played. Similarly, the P-228. And a pretty decent effort in a tricky aircraft, the F-7U there as well. On the opposing side, well, no surprises for finding that the EF-131 was absolutely dominant again. A good effort from the F-84F, although I didn't see him throughout the battle. Unfortunately, the difference was that I got slightly better support from my players than the EF-131 did from his. But it was a very close run thing. Good battle. And that concludes my look at the Messerschmitt Me P.1101, the hardest hitting of the Tier 10 fighters. If you can put good equipment, particularly if you have experimental equipment on this aircraft, and you can get a good pilot into it and offset some of the limitations that it has, in my case, in this video I've built it for manoeuvrability, this can become an extremely powerful weapon in your hands and a pleasure to fly. Well, I hope you found that of value, and if you did, you'll come back and see my future content. But until then, this is the Noble Q, signing out.